retail has always been media.
Retailers are saying, it's my data, it's my customers, I need to own that, and I'm not going to share that with someone else.
Customer experience becomes actually the single biggest differentiator in this category.
Online pure plays making these bolder claims.
They are your partners and you need to collaborate with them for a win-win.
Picture this, 150 brands walk out of your stores because you've just told them that they have to manage their own business inside your retail space. Today I'm talking to Anand, who spent 14 years at Sharaf creating something called Retail as a Service. A model so radical, it made brands think he'd lost his mind. But here's what happened. They all came back within 4 months because the model actually worked. We're exploring how he turned brands from adversaries into true partners, why he believes that AI agents will completely rewrite retail's operating system, and what happens when you flip everything retail has always done on its head. If you think retail innovation only happens in Silicon Valley, this conversation will change your mind. Welcome, Anand, to the pod. Very excited to have you on here. I'd love if we could start with you sharing a little bit about yourself with our listeners.
Thanks a lot for getting me on this pod. I'm Anand. I'm from a city in India, a small city, but a royal city called Mysore. I did my initial schooling there, then went on to do my engineering, and then an MBA from one of the top schools in India. And I started my career with a company called ICI, or Imperial Chemical Industries. It was a great learning place. And I say so because you started off as a 23-year-old, and then everybody who reported into you had experiences upwards of 20 years. And that's where you start learning. And from then on, I think it has been a constant disruption in terms of the roles that I have taken on in ICI, then on Reliance Communication, then at a mobile commerce company, the first of its kind in the world called NGPay, then with Tata Teleservices, and finally with Sharaf. At Sharaf, I spent 50% of my career, so 14 years out of my 27 years there. That's about me. I live in Dubai with my wife and 2 daughters. Yes, that's who I am. I love technology and the intersection of technology, people, business, and processes, because I feel value can be found when you are able to combine, recombine, compose, decompose many things that you would have taken for granted.
Awesome. Thanks for that. One thing you mentioned stayed with me, right? Working with people at a young age with lots and lots of experience. In a way, with the pod, we're trying to do that as well, right? There's a lot of people interested in retail, working in retail, around the retail ecosystem, which itself is very unique compared to a lot of other industries. And having veterans like you on board who've had a 27-year journey is an opportunity to really help people understand what goes on behind the scenes and what opportunities there are, what challenges there are in what I personally, and of course I'm biased there, consider to be one of the most dynamic industries, right? Most interesting industries. As you mentioned, your last stop was at Sharaf. Obviously, as someone deep in retail, I'm familiar with it, but it's one of those sort of hidden gems in the Middle East. A lot of our listeners are out of Europe and the US and may not be familiar with all of the innovation that's happening out there and further east as well. So one of the things we've taken on for this season of the show is to try and bring on more experts from further east than Europe to share all of the great innovation that's happening there. So if you could share a few words about Sharaf, about what you were last doing there.
Yeah, Sharaf is a big box electronics retailer, something similar to Best Buy in US or Media Market Saturn in Europe, or Euronics in Europe. And we are members of Euronics International in this part of the world. DG was started in 2005. It's celebrated its 20 years in Middle East. It operates out of Dubai, but has stores in UAE, Oman, Bahrain, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. It has a great e-commerce sort of presence with omni-channel at its core philosophy of engaging with customers. 1 in 6 consumers in UAE actually visit Sharaf every month. So that's the sort of traffic, footfall traffic in physical stores and online you see among the Sharaf DG consumers. And why is that? I think over the period, trust has been built. And when you have that trust of your consumers, it spreads. And it's interesting because we are in that part of the world where you have customers from 100 plus nationalities. And if you are able to have that trust, the word of mouth spreads, and newcomers into this country get influenced to actually walk into your stores. For people who are not familiar with big box electronics retail, it's one of the challenging sort of retail segments or categories because you do not control anything. You're managing brands of others. You do not have the power to price. You do not control the supply chains of these brands. You do not know when the products are going to get launched. You do not know the quantities that will be allocated to you, but you're supposed to deliver a great customer experience in your stores. So that's the challenge that you see big box electronics retail. And it's interesting because when you do not have all those other differentiators with you, customer experience becomes actually the single biggest differentiator in this category. That's where majority of my focus, my work has gone in Sharaf DG. My last role at Sharaf DG was as head of corporate strategy and analytics. And we firmly believed that you cannot create strategy without backing of analytics. And hence, this was a dual responsibility that I had. After leading marketing, customer experience, and strategic initiatives prior to that role.
So you've seen a lot of the spectrum over there. One thing that just stood out to me right now, I didn't realize how young Sharaf is, right? So you mentioned 2005 it was started.
2005, yeah.
And in the same breath, you had also mentioned the MediaMarkt and Euronics. MediaMarkt, I'm not sure if it's gone through yet, but at least is in the process of getting acquired by JD.com at the moment. And in Europe here, a lot of people are talking about how it's because they didn't manage to get that whole digital sort of shift. But when I hear what you're talking about, big box electronics retailers, it sounds like the thing to get right isn't just the digital experience, but a lot more about what's happening in the stores, that whole customer experience piece, because your abilities on the other fronts are limited. So, born in 2005, already with some digital DNA, talk to me a little bit about how Sharaf got the in store part right and where you think the opportunity lies going forward for big box electronic retail in a world where everyone is going online, comparing specs, picking up the products from Amazon and what have you. Where's the opportunity? And yeah, I have one more follow up to that, but I'll let you run me
So,
through those thoughts.
yeah, so I think you'll have to step back and see what's the purpose of retail. I think it started off saying retail is going to be center of everything to then becoming a place of addressing the demand or just fulfilling the demand. And then it became a place for creating demand. And now I think it's moving into a stage where retail is becoming the media. But I always believed that retail was media all along. It's just getting formally
Fine.
appointed or identified as media. So if I were to see what were the reasons of success for Sharaf DG and where I see retail moving, I think it's about when everybody was writing off big box retail, Sharaf DG understood that there is a need for a place where consumers will be able to walk in and for sure find all the products that they need. This was to address the most important fact in life, which is everybody has limited time. And people are not going to drive kilometers and miles to go to a place and then. So I feel the first important differentiator that Sharaf DG started was if you don't find it, you will get it free. That was a slogan with which Sharaf DG launched way back.
Very strong claim. Yeah.
Very strong claim. And the point was, you come into our store, you'll find everything. And if you don't find something, give us 24 hours. We'll bring it to you. And we can't bring it to you. We'll give an equivalent amount of Sharaf DJ gift cards or value or the item itself free. And that was powerful because it was driving sort of trust among consumers saying, let's just go to Sharaf DJ. We'll find everything. And if we don't, super, we can possibly get the product free. Right. The second was around saying, okay, the product is there, but is there price? Okay. So there was something called best price guarantee. So if you find the same product at a lower price, we'll give you double the difference. Right. And that means that Sharaf DG and its employees were working hard to ensure that the price in the physical store, even before e-commerce became a big thing, was on par or better than competition. These two things, I think, helped customers to start trusting Sharaf DG on the hygiene aspects. And then came aspect of post purchase, which is customer service. What happens after I buy a TV? And what happens if it goes bad or something is not working? Unlike traditional retail, where at that point of time, where retailers would tell the customer, okay, you have to call in or go to the service center of that brand, Sharaf DG said, just call our call center. We will take care of the rest. If we have to follow up with the brand, pick up that product from your house, get it repaired, we'll get it done. But yes, the customer pays for it. But they had this sort of comfort that there is somebody who sold this product, taking care of the product even post purchase. I think these were the reasons why the brand was trusted. Then combined with the sort of talk of the town promotions, I think we did something called get a BMW car free when you buy a TV. The TV was a 84-inch TV. At that point of time, it's an aspiration, a large TV.
Yeah.
And BMW was also an aspiration. But is there a way that you could combine the two, bring value? And it was interesting because in certain months, we actually sold more cars than the local retailer. And it was because I think you can drive value. The combined value of the TV plus BMW saved almost like 30% in terms of price that the customer paid for it. So I think the talk of the town promotions, the trust they had with the services that Sharaf DG as a brand provided, irrespective of the brand that we were selling, right, inside our stores, I think that gave the comfort for customers to really trust and keep visiting and buying from Sharaf DG.
That's fascinating. I think there's a lot of interesting takeaways in that we're seeing coming back now, right? With a lot of these online pure plays making these bolder claims, making more aggressive promotions, buy three, get four free, and so on and so forth. We see that a lot happening in Temu and Shein and stuff nowadays. But if you look at a lot of the main retailers, they all seem to have mellowed down with their offerings. Your best chance is on a Black Friday, you will get 20% more off, and that's already good enough. And I wonder how much that has to do with the other side of the coin that you mentioned, right? Which is you're balancing as a big box electronics retailer between the consumer in this case. And from what I can understand, Sharaf did a great job of keeping the consumer happy. But you also need to somehow keep those brands happy and create that experience for them. Was there some innovation happening on that front as well? How did Sharaf do that differently from the traditional retailers?
So in the earlier days, the information flow between a retailer and the brand was not that great. And that's a place where Sharaf DG did innovation in terms of giving real-time information on sales that is happening inside the store so that the brands and their suppliers could plan supplies into Sharaf DG. So it was like almost like an auto purchase order going to a supplier as and when a sale was happening. So this gave sort of visibility, transparency into what's happening inside the physical store. The second was around helping brands improve their productivity in what we call as shop in shop or brand boxes inside electronic store. So if you walk into any large electronic store, you will see an Apple space, a Samsung space, a LG space, so to say. These are all what we call as shop in shop. So when we implemented video analytics inside the Sharaf DG stores, we were able to provide the same level of information that e-commerce or marketplaces that you mentioned have at their end. We could provide the same information to brands. And the objective was not to monetize the data by saying, okay, I'm going to give this report to you, give me money, but it was to help them increase their productivity, because now they know, oh, so many customers came into my space or a brand box, and what was their purchase? Where did they spend time? In which product did they spend time at? What happened with my customer and staff engagements or interactions inside that brand box? Why is this store and this employee not able to increase the average transaction value versus another employee in a So these are discussions that actually help the brands to improve their performance versus the traditional discussion of I need more commission, I need more jobs, I need more stocks. What is the use of having higher commission if I'm not able to show a throughput? What is the fun in having higher stocks if I'm not able to sell? So I think Sharaf DG flipped the coin, or so to say, on multiple areas and assumptions that traditional retail had, including saying, we don't need 35% margin. Can we have standardized margin in categories? Which was through my retail as a service program or business model that I launched, which helped to bring transparency and at the same time said that it should be win-win versus saying, I don't care about you. I, as a retailer, I have to win. So I think these are certain things that Sharaf DG did very different from the traditional retailers.
I can see that one of the, in conversations both with the brands and with the retailers, I see this tension on a regular basis, right? Retailers are saying, it's my data, it's my customers, I need to own that, and I'm not going to share that with someone else. And then brands are saying, I'm getting my sales throughput numbers once in a quarter. And based on that, I'm supposed to plan my online campaigns that react on a daily basis, not on a quarterly basis. And I'm supposed to figure out how much stock to be delivering and all of this, right? And not just in electronics, across the board, we see this sort of tension. But I guess there must have been a reason why retailers were hesitant to share this in the past. And what was the innovation there? And I think you alluded to it a little bit with retail as a service that made it so that this went from being a, let's say, a transaction with some tension to being more of a partnership model.
Yep. So I think the collaborative sort of an approach was seeded when Sharaf DG was launched, because you were one of the last entrants in this market to consumer electronics. The family, the group was well known. It had a presence in electronics retail, but not in a sort of a chain and a massive scale. So how do you actually break in? So you had to learn how to collaborate with brands and also their suppliers. And that's the reason why I think collaboration was ingrained into the DNA of Sharaf DG. The second was, what is the use of data? You may say data is the new oil or whatever, but if that data is not actionable by the people who can actually take action versus with people who are sitting on it without being capable of taking any action, I think that's where our approach changed. Saying, let's give almost all the data to the vendors, to the brands, so that they can improve their performance inside the store. The sort of personal identifiable information or PII data was not given, but any other actionable information was given in almost as real time as possible. Brands could see what happened 1 hour back inside the store, right? That level of information, I don't think other traditional retailers are giving. And we also gave access to many of the assets that we had built
Mhm.
including video analytics, including dashboards. The dashboards, all the brands could open and see. And it's the same dashboard that internal employees were seeing. Uh,
Okay.
Not something that was built exclusive only for brands, but it was the same thing that internal employees were also using for taking action.
So they saw
I
no
think
matter how bad or good it was, they saw the same thing. Yeah, there was
all the same.
no sugarcoating there.
There was no reason to sugarcoat because the brands would have come to know of it in a month's time. So it's better to share it now because probably they will take action if they are invested in you. And that was the reason for sharing. Close to 350 plus brands got information from Sharaf DG and they could act on it. And when it came to retail as a service, they were responsible for everything from taking care of stocks. It's almost like how you manage your business on a marketplace. That's the same thing you did when managing your business inside Sharaf DG.
So that's the next evolution. You're going from we're sharing data, we're opening up access to what's happening in the store, to we're saying we become a service provider and we give you retail as a service.
Yeah,
I really like that name, and I would love for you to explain a bit more in detail what that entails because I think it's something quite revolutionary. And I'm curious to see that model play out also in other markets. So if you don't mind letting a bit the cat out of the bag.
sure. So I think if you look at all retail, your space is always a constraint in physical retail. So the RAS model was actually born out of necessity. You had a long tail of SKUs or products which are inside your stores, occupying almost 60% of the space, but generating less than 20% of sale. And this is true in majority of retailers
Mm.
across the world. Because you can't change your space or the physical space that you have on a month on month basis, you end up compromising on inefficiencies with the products and SKUs that you keep inside the store. So the RAS model was actually born of that necessity, saying, can we bring efficiency into it? And the point was, can a category manager humanly be able to manage 30 brands versus a brand and its service provider, which is a vendor or a supplier, can they manage their business better than a category manager in house? And something similar, you had a list of all questions saying, why do you need 35% margin when you're still not making money for that per square feet that the SKU or the product is occupying? Can you do can you do marketing for this product better than what the brand can do? Can you explain this product better than what the brand can do? And hence, you ended up with a model called retail as a service, where you said that Sharab DJ is going to be an operator, which is going to provide infrastructure and common services, and is going to ensure that there is customers inside the physical store, that there is infrastructure around security, price, visibility, marketing, cashiering, customer care, inventory management, those sort of services. But can the brands manage their own products in terms of stocking, pricing, managing the visual merchandising? And I think initially it was a sort of a shock for the brands because this is not a model found anywhere in the world. And when it was launched in 2019 Jan, the first couple of months was a shock for us because close to 125, 150 brands walked away, and they said, "This is crazy. We are supposed to give you stocks, and you're supposed to manage business."
Sell it for us. Yeah.
Whereas the same questions don't arise when they work on marketplaces. No marketplace guarantees performance. You're supposed to take care of your brand and ensure performance. And I think the reality dawned on the brands when they started seeing that, yes, there are other brands who see the value and they were performing. And then I think in close to around 4 months' time, you had all the brands back again inside the physical stores. So it was not just the business model, but I think the whole infrastructure. So the brands could sit in their office and change their price. And when they change their price, like how they do on marketplace portals, Sharaf DG would trigger that price change through a complex web of APIs. And the price change happened in the stores seamlessly because all the stores and all the products inside Sharaf DG stores had digital price tags. So if you don't have the infrastructure, definitely you can't implement something like retail as a service. And
Were the brands also putting staff in the stores of their own?
yeah, they were. In a way, it was complete management of their business inside Sharaf DG stores. But there were guardrails, there were rules of engagement, there were training that was provided as to how you're going to behave inside a Sharaf DG store. And they all had to wear the same Sharaf DG uniform with an identifier on their t-shirt saying they belong to which brand, right? That helped to actually have experts who are well trained on the product that they are selling, serving customers in a high footfall Sharaf DG store to deliver a performance in line with what the brand expects. So there was no, you didn't do this. I was not told about this. I need more money if you need more performance. Those were reasons or conflicts that was completely removed. So in a way, the brand started managing their performance inside Sharaf DG stores. And Sharaf DG was able to do a good job of what it does best, which is earning the trust of customers, creating those policies, creating the experiences inside the store, which made the customers to come back again and again. And that's the success, I think, of retail as a service. It has remained a moat for Sharaf DG because even after 6 years, nobody has copied the model or launched it in some form because it's not just the business model. I think it's a whole culture, so to say, around how you engage with brands. They are not your adversaries, they are your partners, and you need to collaborate with them for a win win.
Having said that, how translatable do you think this model is to other markets, other sectors even within retail, right? If we look away from electronics, do you think this is something that's unique to Middle East electronics retails because of the, let's say, parameters that exist or limitations that exist in that market? Or can you see this playing out in other sectors and other geographies as well?
No, I think it is playing in all geographies. So if any retailer has launched a marketplace, they actually behave differently with the marketplace sellers versus their behavior to the brands that they are buying and selling inside their stores. So they already have this dual sort of behavior that they are displaying. So if a retailer is successful with marketplace sellers, I think they know how to manage retail as a service with a few more tools and technologies and access that they can give to the brands. They should be able to provide retail as a service inside their physical stores. But I think it is going to be a challenge for single brand retailers. You can't have one brand name outside and then 10 brands inside, so to say. So I think any place where you have multi-brand retail, you should be able to do it. And retailers who have already launched marketplaces, they should be able to do this faster.
Another angle that this has me thinking about is right now we're talking about the triumvirate, right? The relationship, customer, brand, retailer. Obviously, a lot of this works with a very strong layer of tech that enables all of it. How do you see those partnerships evolving in such a world as well, right? Between the technology providers and the retailer or the brand. Do they continue to just be an infrastructure piece, a tool in the layer? Or, and especially now in the AI driven world, something changing in terms of the role of a technology player in this ecosystem?
I still don't see a role right now because there needs to be a change in their approach, their business models, their pricing sort of models, because majority of the technology players are like, okay, this is my product, this is my SaaS, and this is my fees. I do not know about your success. And at the same time, they use the word partner, whereas the meaning of partner is to be a partner in both profit and losses, and not just on when you're making profits. So I feel that some of the areas like digital marketing, where it is all performance driven, has reached that stage. But there are many other areas of technology stack in the technology stack which are still providing a product, a solution, a service which is paid for and irrespective of the performance of the customer. So I think it will take some time. But what I feel is if you reimagine the entire retail operating system with the agentic AI and AI agent sort of space, there is a possibility that it will be completely performance driven. What I mean is, a lot of technologies inside a retail stack are actually not consumed 100% to the capabilities of those individual technologies. So there could be a redesign of the entire retail stack from ground up, keeping one of the things which could be core and the rest of it could be agentic AI. It is happening in certain areas that I see. Maybe in a couple of years, you would probably see a retailer completely on an operating system of agentic AI.
I wouldn't be surprised. And to your point of how solution providers function so far, I think that's in for a big wake up call. And we're seeing that happening also on the markets when you look at SaaS companies being valued differently and so on and so forth. Because somewhere along the way, that needs to change from a conversation about software as a service to, as you put it, success as a service, maybe. So that's the framework I've been thinking a lot about is fine, not everyone needs to be necessarily vibe coding their core systems. But if the value of building the system has shifted from I can write code to I can think of the right solution, then that should mean that the alignment should also happen more on the solution level, right? So what are you actually solving? And if then you're saying, I'm coming in and solving this problem for you using my technology, then it's fair enough that you're not getting paid for moving bits and bytes and running servers, but you're getting paid for solving those problems. So I think, yeah, there's a unique opportunity there as well. If you were to today start something like a Sharaf DG 2.0, what would that look like? Taking AI, taking agentic into account. Can you paint a picture of the next retail iteration 3.0, 6.0, n.0, whatever that might be?
If I were to look at it, there are 2, 3 thoughts that are happening. I think the retail business model is changing and changing at a fast pace. All you have to do is look at what Walmart and Best Buy are doing, the sort of revenue streams and the new sort of business models that they are seeing success with. What I feel is retail has always been media, and there is an opportunity for retail to resurrect and probably become that space where consumers are walking in to actually discover, get inspired, engage, understand, and buy, versus saying, okay, it's just a shelf with products and you decide and you buy, right? So there have been experiments, there have been some sort of models that are already playing out, but I feel that brands will actually want stores to become theaters for customers to engage with their products, understand the value that they can bring, address the jobs to be done for the consumer, and probably then purchase. The purchase aspect, the transaction can happen online or offline, but offline, I think, is a great place for actually helping customers experience. So that's point one. So I see a lot of sort of experience zones of flagship stores, theaters, retail theaters coming up in multiple cities for brands. It's happening in some big cities, but I think that's something that is going to happen everywhere. If I were to reimagine retail, again, if you step back and see what was happening with ERP, you had a standard product, but it was the retailer who had a return process and who was converting that return process into steps inside a ERP.
Or
Now,
translation.
yeah, not of translation of your process or workflow into a hard coded, so to say, product or solution.
Or
Now,
if you chose the wrong ERP, changing your processes to fit with
yeah, or
the
change.
way they see the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, if you have that ability to actually reimagine your workflow, and then you have an ability to build agentic, so to say, where the ability of AI combined with the decision making or the human intelligence at certain points of that workflow get combined to actually multiply what we are doing. You don't have to be in the office to access ERP to place a purchase order.
Absolutely.
And you do that by looking at what was the past data to really do it. So if agentic is good at looking at trends and possibly saying raise a purchase order of only 31 instead of, we love round numbers, right? 35, 30, 40, 50, raise 31. I think the human will do a great job at saying, fine, even if it is 31, I'm going to raise 60 because I'm planning a promotion, because agentic may not know what
About
the
that.
human is planning. So I feel a combination of automation, a combination of workflow design with the human somewhere in between is going to happen in the next max couple of years. And you will see retailers saying, let's walk away from the tech stacks that we have currently to actually address the workflow that we have designed and address the needs of the customer by combining all the data that we have so that it is actionable. So I see that happening on the technology and workflow and agentic sort of space. But in terms of physical spaces, I see retail as a media taking. And the third part is monetization of all sorts of assets that a retailer has, whether it is physical, whether it is digital, and also data. These sort of monetization models will actually take shape and it will become pervasive across the world.
Fascinating. Exciting to see this iteration of retail. I will take the chance now to move us into our final round, which
Sure.
is the rapid fire section. It may or may not have to do with retail, the questions I ask you.
Sure.
But the idea is don't think too much. Just say the first answer that comes to mind. We're shifting gears. And if you're ready, let's go.
Yes, please.
Okay. What's something you're surprisingly good at that has nothing to do with work?
I think connecting the dots across multiple spaces.
Okay. If you had to pick one cuisine for the rest of your life, what would it be?
It would be Indian, South Indian vegetarian food.
Remaining loyal to the home turf. Nice.
Yes, yes.
If you had to ban one buzzword from retail forever, which buzzword would that be?
Digital transformation.
I was hoping you'd say phygital. That would have been
Yeah.
my top pick. If you could have dinner with any entrepreneur of your choice, who would it be right now?
It would be the ex CEO of Best Buy, Hubert Jolly. I've read his book, which is Heart of Business, and it's an interesting read.
Last one. If you could redo the whole thing and choose an industry other than retail, what would you be doing?
I would probably become a software engineer.
Okay.
And but with AI, I think we are living in a time when you don't need to really know coding. But I would have been probably a software engineer.
All right. Great. Thank you so much, Anand, for sharing all of these brilliant insights. As I said, I think there's so much more to unpack there. I'm curious to see these models playing out in markets outside Sharaf, a lot of these cool things you've worked on. But for today, we'll wrap it here. Thank you for joining us. We hope you had a great time.
Thanks a lot. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Retail Spotlight. Tell us how you found it, whether you're in the retail industry and want us to dive deeper into certain topics or invite certain guests, or if you're a passionate shopper enjoying a behind the scenes look, we want to hear from you. Hit us up with your comments, likes, and feedback. And if you know someone who loved this episode, please share it with them. Lastly, if you want to stay informed when we go next live with the next episode, make sure to hit the subscribe button. See you next time.